Hello dear viewers, before we start the video, we hope you enjoy this anime recap to your heart's content. It all starts with the fact that in America they found an ancient man who attacked a T-Rex. They were able to pull out of the salt, but no one even hopes to revive him. But a scientist named Alan suggested using the latest technology to bring him back to life. Pickle was immersed in a special raster, which, with the help of tides, imitated the pulsation of the heart, but for more than 90 days, he could not wake up. At some point, Alan wanted a steak, but not an ordinary steak, but a T-Rex steak. Pickle woke up to the smell of fried meat. Clearly, he was stunned, but the feeling of hunger was stronger, and he followed the smell of meat. The genius scientist decided that the best thing to do in this situation would be to start threatening the ancient man with a gun, but the bullets couldn't penetrate it. Alan tried to run away from him, and at the very last moment, he was saved from Pickle by a dinosaur, on whose scent Pickle had gone. Alan called the police and began to tell Albert what was happening. The ancient man is trapped in the freezer, and the police have to capture him somehow. They were originally going to storm him, but Albert orders that they should not try to get at him either. First, he's humanity's greatest exhibit, and they have no right to harm him. And second, he's more dangerous than all of them put together, as Pickle proves by breaking down a wall and starting to collapse police cars. The thing is, Pickle is an extremely proud man, and he was greatly offended by being deprived of his battle with T-Rex Dino. At this place came the military, who decided to use an innovative machine, but only this pride of military technology Pickle did not even feel, and therefore the most powerful army led by Stridum. He immediately understood how to act, so the first thing he did was to strip naked, and then he approached Pickle and promised him peace. A world with people as strong as he was, namely Japan. Under a bunch of security, Pickle was transported to Japan, where a reporter decided that approaching an ancient for an interview was a good idea, and for this Pickle showered her with love. Since this is the poorest rape that no one could influence, people began to protest, but since Pickle is still considered untouchable, nothing was done to him. The authorities prepared a special place for him where Pickle was to live. Understandably, the great fighters could not leave him alone, and so they began to make their way to him, and even Yujiro himself decided to visit him. The noisy guests failed to interest Pickle, and only Yujiro forced the ancient to pay attention with his presence. They tested each other's strength, and Pickle was so strong that Yujiro had to use fighting techniques. But that was the end of it, because the armed forces started begging Yujiro to get out of here, since Pickle is important to humanity after all, to which Yujiro eventually agreed and left. The only one who didn't come to him was Baki, because as usual, he only cares about the battle with his father, and he doesn't want to spoil his cultural heritage. Retsu was of a completely different opinion. The thing was that he exalted Kung Fu, and he was very interested to know what was stronger. A martial art that had been developed for over 4,000 years, or the pure power of an ancient man, but he didn't know how to go about it yet. At this time, Pickle himself remembered Yujiro again and again. He couldn't understand by what power he was turned over then, and the mystery made him happy. The scientists ran into a problem. Pickle hadn't consumed anything but water for a month. As I said before, Pickle is a proud warrior and only feeds on his enemies, and since all the animals brought to him ran away in fear, he simply had nothing to eat. The only animal that Pickle was not afraid of was the Siberian tiger, the most dangerous animal on Earth, who also had not eaten for days and was ready to fight the ancient. Pickle immediately became enthusiastic and almost instantly killed and ate this tiger. On learning of this, the people were again furious, for the Siberian tiger was on the verge of extinction, and to feed them to Pickle, they considered it impermissible. Albert replied that no animal in the world was higher than Pickle, and if necessary, they would feed all Siberian tigers to him. Retsu realized that this was his chance. He went to Tokugawa and told him that since food was a problem for Pickle, he was willing to help them. He asked him to organize a fight, and in case Pickle defeated him, Retsu would be his food. He agreed, and Retsu came out for the fight. From afar, Pickle smelled his strength and was eager to take the fight and got into his fighting stance for the first time. Retsu was strong and was able to give him good blows that would have killed a normal person instantly, except Pickle's body was so strong that he couldn't feel such blows, and no matter how hard Retsu tried to overpower him, Pickle was still stronger. He grabbed Retsu and began to eat his arm. Retsu was able to fight him off, and he fought back again, performing even better. But this time, Pickle finally knocked him out. Pickle tearfully began to eat him as if saying goodbye to Retsu, but unable to bear it, Albert injected him with a strong sedative. Retsu was saved, but he was left with a badly injured arm and no leg. He didn't care much about the missing leg. The only thing he was worried about was that he hadn't kept his word. Retsu had promised to be food if he was defeated, but in truly being eaten, he wasn't ready, and for that, he felt guilty. Baki came to him, and after hearing about what happened, he gave him moral support, after which he decided that he wanted to fight Pickle himself. The news about Retsu was spread to all the fighters, and then it turned out that Pickle had escaped. He put on the clothes of a passerby and started walking until, at one point, he was hit by a truck. Then Hanayama found him on the street, and Pickle immediately saw him as a worthy opponent. But Hanayama wasn't going to fight him, because his job was to find him for Baki, who wanted to meet him in person. Pickle held out his fist to him and pulled the same trick that Yujiru had done to him. This made Hanma's blood begin to boil in Baki, and he arbitrarily began to fight. In response, Pickle called them after him and led them back to the underground arena. Apparently, he wanted to fight him there, but Baki remembered the time he had made innocent Yashizaru fight to the death, so he pulled himself together and refused to fight. However, Pickle insisted and knocked Baki out with one punch and then did a victory dance. When Baki finally woke up, it took him a long time to recover from the blow, which made him enjoy it a lot, and he was eager to fight him, because fighting an opponent of this level would help him surpass Yujiru's level. During this time, Katsumi was training to avenge for Retsu, though revenge was just an excuse to fight Pickle. Retsu himself decided to help him out and told him about the strike waving. It is a strike that utilizes the entire body of the fighter, capable of traveling at the speed of sound. It's like a whip that, when it reaches its maximum speed, overcomes the speed of sound. But a normal person doesn't have enough joints to do that, so the fighters don't know how to achieve it. Kayukaku told them that it is actually possible to master such a punch. You really need to have extra joints for it, but you don't have to have them. You can use your imagination to visualize them. Katsumi started practicing, and in just one night, he was able to learn and even modify the new kick he wanted to use to defeat Pickle. He asked Tokugawa to organize the fight, and he agreed, but on one condition: the fight would not take place in an underground arena, but in a baseball stadium. At the entrance, he was met and wished good luck by his mother, who brought along his biological mother, Katsumi, whom he also loved dearly, even though she had abandoned him. Upon entering the stadium, he first meets Bucky and his father, and at the stadium itself, he is greeted by thousands of students from the Shinshinkai Karate School. After receiving an incredible dose of motivation, Katsumi began the fight. Katsumi used his new special kick, and it was so strong that it was the first time Pickle felt that kind of pain in his stomach. But this punch had one drawback. If you hit someone with this technique, the hitter's arm would be destroyed. But that didn't stop him, and he threw another swinging kick with his leg, which was also broken, and in the end, only his right leg remained intact. Katsumi had paid a lot for those punches, but Pickle was not going to be taken in by that, and even after that, he got into his fighting stance, which he had used to knock out Retsu last time. However, Katsumi was ready for it, and this time, he used his newest modified punch, and he paid for it with his whole arm. Giving the fight all of himself, Katsumi was never able to kill him, because even after such powerful moves, all Pickle did was just fall asleep. The thing was that in the wild, predators didn't waste energy on opponents who were about to die, so Pickle just waited for Katsumi to fall. Just like last time, Pickle started crying, which meant he would now be saying goodbye to his prey. He had given Katsumi a lot of emotions with this battle, and in gratitude for that, he was ready to become his food, and Pickle instantly bit his hand off. Katsumi passed out from the loss of blood, finally begging Pickle not to leave a single bone from him. Tokugawa was not prepared for this and was about to stop the fight, but Doppo Orochi ordered him not to interfere because it would dishonor his son, who had made an unwritten promise to Pickle through the battle. Kneeling in front of Katsumi, Pickle began to pray, and at the very last moment, Pickle showed compassion, and for the first time in his life, he did not eat his opponent, because all past dinosaur opponents had powerful weapons in the form of horns or their size, and Katsumi was a man who went to have only his small, frail body with him, and for that, Pickle respected him. The injured Katsumi began to be carried out of the stadium, and those who were in it all kneeled as one, showing their devotion and respect for their mentor. Yujiro and Doppo discussed the fight and everything that was going on, and came to the conclusion that the fact that Pickle had woken up now meant that someone from above wanted to see them fight Pickle. Baki then began to prepare for his fight with Pickle. Retsu, who came to him, said that neither he nor Katsumi had been able to show all of Pickle's power, and with his bouts, Bucky really wants to see the strongest version of him. After calling Tokugawa to schedule the fight, it turned out that Baki was late, and Jack came to the arena to Pickle. Pickle immediately recognized Jack's strength, and in general, he was very happy to have his toys come to him in this arena. Jack's main trick is his jaw, with which he can bite a coconut, and he incredibly wanted to find out who had a stronger bite, and so they rushed into battle, where they began to find out who was stronger through a love bite, and the stronger one was Pickle, who ate part of Jack's face. This didn't stop him, of course, and he continued his fight, during which he managed to seize the initiative and started beating Pickle, and at one point, he bit off his ear. Pickle went on a rampage, and no matter how strong Jack was or how many steroids he had injected, Pickle was still stronger, and so after a series of punches, he knocked him out. Jack was unconscious, and Pickle was about to eat him, but at the last moment he smelled something wrong, so he changed his mind about eating him. It turned out that he did everything right, because before the fight, Jack had developed a reflex, which even after his death, should have mortally wounded his opponent. After the fight, Jack was taken to the hospital, where Kureha was able to give him the help he needed, but as soon as he came to his senses, he immediately rushed back into the arena. From this, Pickle was shocked, because this is the first time he sees an opponent who even after his death comes to fight him. After a while, however, the fear goes away and Pickle knocks Jack out again. He was going to escape from the hospital again, but this time he was met by Bucky, who told him that Jack had lost and as a fighter he should admit his defeat. And most insulting of all, after their battle, Pickle very carefully carried Jack to the top of the building, where he tied him to a pole, thus leaving his food as is for later. After all of this, Pickle was finally reached by Baki. Tokugawa wonders if Baki will be able to defeat Pickle himself, since even Jack and the other fighters couldn't stand up to him. To which Yujiro replies that unlike the others, Baki has his blood in him, and that alone makes him a worthy opponent for Pickle. Baki sat in front of Pickle, waiting for him to want to fight him. Except Albert had solved the food problem, Pickle will eat the corpse of a dinosaur, which is enough for 5 years. And during this time, they will be able to clone its meat, which means Pickle will no longer have to fight anyone. He decided to share his meat with Baki because he considers him his friend. Baki realized that at this rate, he will never fight with him, so he decided not to wait and take action. He slapped him very gently, and by his gentle approach, he insulted him very much. For the first time, Pickle would fight not to get food, but to defend his dignity. Baki was quick to start the fight, and at one point even began to choke him, forcing Pickle to climb and jump from the highest point of the arena. Since Pickle was much more durable, he easily survived this fall. Baki also stood on his feet, but in reality, he couldn't even move. Pickle realized that Baki would not be able to give him an equal fight in this condition, so he started praying for his health, and it was humiliating for Baki, and through unprecedented pain, Baki was going to continue the fight. Pickle accepted the rules of the game and began to fight, except that the power of his blows was weaker than the child's, all because Pickle didn't want to damage his toy. This struck Baki's pride, and to make him fight for real, Baki jumped down from the top of the arena again, showing Pickle that such wounds don't really hurt him. And even though Baki had brought himself to an even worse state, he had gotten to the point where Pickle wasn't worried about him now. They began to fight, and Baki landed some very precise blows on Pickle's skin. Such a blow is difficult to execute, but it is much more effective, so much so that Pickle couldn't get to his feet the first time. He then used the whip technique where he relaxes his entire body, making it as flabby as possible. With these blows, he made Pickle feel incredible pain. Pickle responded with a stance to which Baki adopted a dinosaur stance, then began to adopt other stances familiar to Pickle's opponent, and at one point, Pickle stopped realizing what he was fighting against, which helped Baki start beating Pickle. However, he was doing all of this using martial arts, and he wondered if he could stop him with just his bare strength. Baki began to dodge his blows, and each time he let Pickle get closer and closer to his body, and after one of his punches, Baki showed such speed that Pickle felt as if he had passed through him. In the process, Pickle reached his peak form, and according to Baki, this is when the real fight would begin. They started fighting again, and Baki was so strong that he made Pickle run away from him around the arena. But Baki caught up to him time after time and struck again, all so fast that Tokugawa, Retsu, and Hanayama couldn't see them. Pickle was on the ground again, and this time, Baki extended his fist to him, offering a battle of endurance. They threw punches non-stop, but in the end, Pickle was the more enduring, and at the very end, he used a fighting move and knocked Baki out. Retsu said that Pickle had won because he now had the power over Baki's life and death, but Hanayama thought that Baki had won the battle because he had forced the primitive man to use martial arts, which meant that Pickle himself, in pure strength, thought Baki was stronger than he was, so he had used this technique. Pickle then escaped from the arena and climbed to the roof of a house, where he and Baki enjoyed the view together. However, the problems did not end there, as world leaders began to debate whether Pickle should be allowed to live as a normal human being, or whether he should be returned to his original state, i.e., frozen. With over 1 billion people voting, it was decided to return him to his original state. But since Pickle is still the strongest primitive man, he easily escaped from them, after which he gave Stridum the head of his dinosaur as a thank you for keeping his promise.